Did you return to this scene at 218 East Copeland on May 24th, 2018?
Yes, I did.
Did you go alone or was anybody with you?
I was with CSI Crosby.
Any of the detectives with you?
Detective Sprague and Detective Sharp.
All right, and what was your role on this particular day?
I assisted with scene documentation as well as additional evidence collection.
And scene documentation back in 2018, still digital photography?
Yes.
May I approach the witness with BO for identification?
May.
Recognize these images?
Yes, I do.
When were these images taken?
They were taken back at the crime scene lab after we departed from the scene.
What do the images depict?
They show after the items were processed with chemicals, they show the reaction of the chemicals.
Right? And specifically, where were these chemicals applied? What piece of evidence was it that was collected that had this process put on it?
The evidence that were processed was the north wood rail and the metal frame of the interior north side rail of the bed.
And did you take any swabs of any of the evidence either on the scene or back at the Orlando Police Department that day?
Back at the crime scene lab.
All right. Did you take any swabs from the wood frame?
Yes, I did.
Did you take any swabs from the metal part of the frame of the bed?
Yes, I did.
I believe you described it as the north side. On May 24th, is this the side of the bed closest to where the carpet and the carpet padding had been taken up?
Yes, it was.
And did you swab the wood slats that were taken?
Yes, I did.
May I approach with AE and AF?
You may.
First, AE for identification. Do you recognize that item?
Yes, I do.
And was it something that you collected?
Yes, it is.
And then when you collected it, did you package it, label it, and seal it in a similar fashion that we previously discussed with the other exhibits?
Yes.
Other than any FDLE evidence tape on it, is it in substantially the same condition as when you last saw it?
Yes, it is.
And what is it that you put into the container AE?
I had a blood swab from the interior side of the north side rail.
And AF for identification, do you recognize that item?
Yes, I do.
And after collecting that item and placing it in that envelope, did you label it and seal it in a similar fashion as we previously discussed with the other exhibits?
Yes.
Other than any FDLE evidence tape, is it in substantially the same condition as when you last saw it?
Yes.
What is it that you put into that envelope AF?
A blood swab from the metal frame on the interior of the north side rail.
Now, when you take these swabs, do you just take one area of suspected blood, or do you swab all the suspected areas of blood?
I swab all areas.
Any particular reason for doing it that way?
That way I can have like more suspected blood on the swab.
And is that important for the quantification and amplification process, if you know the answer to that question?
Yes, it is.
At this time, the state would move AE and AF for identification.
Any objection?
No objection.
55, 56.
May I approach with AG and AR?
You may.
Showing you first AG for identification. You recognize that?
Yes, I do.
Is it something you collected that day on May 24th and then packaged and labeled and sealed in a similar fashion as the previous exhibits?
Yes.
Other than FDLE evidence tape on it, is it substantially the same condition as when you last saw it?
Yes, it is.
What did you put in that container, AG?
A suspected blood swab from the wooden slat collected from the bed frame in the upstairs loft.
And what about AR for identification? Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what is it that you collected and put in that envelope?
A suspected blood swab from wooden slat collected from bed frame in upstairs loft.
And did you package it, label it, and seal it in a similar fashion as the previous exhibits?
Yes, I did.
Other than any FDLE evidence tape on it, is it in substantially the same condition as when you last saw it?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would move AG and AR.
Any objection?
None.
5758.
Medium ear size for gloves.
Yes.
Can I approach with D for identification, stage 26.
You may.
D, 26.
Got it.
Open, we picked the right end. Did you open this? Could you take these items out, please?
Yes.
Could you stand up, Judge?
Of course.
Can you show those items to the jury and then show them the areas where you swabbed for suspected blood? All right, you can take your seat. Turning back to BO for identification, the photographs that we were discussing, state would move BO for identification and evidence.
Any objection?
No.
Number 59.
Move to publish.
Horse.
Showing you image 11 on this exhibit. And can we have the lights? What are we looking at here?
We're looking at the north outer wood rail.
And did you use any sort of substance or substances to enhance this photograph?
Yes, I did.
What did you use?
I used a chemical detection, a blood detection chemical, to search for blood stains.
And this chemical that you use, what is to happen if there is presumptively blood?
It will luminesce in a light blue color.
All right. And did you observe that?
Yes, I did.
Did you document that with this photo?
Yes, I did.
Did you have to do anything special to photograph this, or did normal lens settings capture this?
Normal lens settings.
12, what are we looking at?
It's the outer wood rail.
13,
The same item.
14,
Same item.
15,
This would be the metal frame.
16,
The wood rail.
17,
That would be the metal frame.
and 18,
The wood rail.
and finally, back to 11. All right. We can have the lights back, Mr. Clerk, please. Finally, on September 18th of this year, did you go out and collect a buccal swab from Jackson Cooper?
Yes, I did.
What's a buccal swab?
It's a DNA standard where we typically take a cotton tip swab and swab it inside of the cheek of the subject.
Same sterile cotton swab you described and used for the other exhibits,
That's correct.
and then packaged in a similar fashion
That's correct.
into a cardboard box that kind of suspends it from touching the edges?
That's correct.
May I approach with CI for identification?
You may.
Recognize CI for identification?
Yes, I do.
What do you recognize it as?
A buccal swab collected from Jackson Cooper.
Aside from any FDLE evidence tape on it, is this package in substantially the same condition as you left it when you packaged it, labeled it, and sealed it?
Yes, it is.
This time the state would move CI for identification into evidence.
Any objection?
No.
Number 60.
No other questions of this witness?
Defense cross.
Good morning.
So back in April of 2018, it's fair to say you were fairly new to the squad,
That's correct.
still in training under the supervisor, Investigator Crosby.
He was just a crime scene investigator.
Were you following him around, though, and shadowing him as you were learning, or was this just, you were just partnered with him at the time?
I was shadowing him at the time.
Okay. So when you got to the scene, how many people were on scene?
There were several officers, myself, CSI Crosby, and two detectives, Detective Sprade and Detective Sharp.
Paramedics?
No, they weren't on scene when I.
They had already come and gone?
Yes, that's correct.
Fair to say that there were others that might have come and gone before you got there?
That's possible.
In the course of your duties, how were you dressed that day?
I was dressed in the similar attire I'm wearing now.
What about your hands and feet when you were on the crime scene?
I don't recall at the time.
Were you wearing any sort of gloves?
Yes, I was.
What about booties on your shoes?
I don't recall.
Do you normally wear booties when you go onto crime scenes?
Yes.
And what kind of booties?
We have like blue medical booties that we will wear.
A cloth type material?
Yes.
All right. Was everybody dressed in such on their feet, if you can recall?
I don't recall.
And you didn't see the paramedics, so you have no idea how they were dressed, of course, right?
That's correct.
At some point during the course of you were out at the house twice on the 24th of April, correct?
I was there once on the 24th of April.
You didn't leave and return?
No, I did not.
Okay, so you were there on the 24th. Did you participate in the search on the 30th of April?
No, I did not.
And I think you've already testified that you were back on the 24th of May, about a month later, for some additional search.
Yes, I was.
What about on August the 29th of 18? Did you participate in the search of Mr. Tronnes' mother's home?
No.
On the 24th, did you search the main house?
Objection. Which 24th?
I'm sorry, on the 24th of April, the first day that you were there, did you search the main house that was under construction?
I was only in the upstairs loft.
Did you note that there was another piece or another structure on the property?
Yes,
Did you take a look at it at all?
I did not.
Do you know if anybody did?
I don't recall.
In the course of your duties, were you looking for weapons?
Yes.
Did you locate any weapons?
No, we did not.
Did you find any bloody clothing? Other than the clothing worn by the deceased?
No, we did not.
Did you collect any male clothing at all?
No, I did not.
On the 24th of April,
No, I did not.
24th of May?
No, I did not.
Did you find any bloody towels or cleaning supplies on the property on April the 24th?
Towels, yes.
And which towel was that?
It was located underneath the decedent.
Can you describe the color of it?
I don't recall the color.
And you said in September of this year that you collected buccal swabs of Jackson Cooper?
That is correct.
Do you have any idea why, some 5 years removed, that you're collecting buccal swabs?
Objection, work product.
Objection what, I'm sorry?
Work product.
Attorney's approach. Thank
No
you.
redirect, she may be released.
Any objection? No. Thank you, ma'am. You may step down. You are released from subpoena. State next witness.
Your Honor, at this time, the state calls Lori Kutcher. Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you introduce yourself to the jury and just spell your last name for the record?
Sure. My name is Lori Kutcher, and it's Cutcher.
And where do you work?
I work for Tritech Electronics.
Okay. And what type of company is that?
We build custom cable assemblies and harnesses for the military applications.
What is your role with that company?
So I'm in the accounting and finance department.
How long have you been in that job?
I've worked for the company for 17 years. I've been in the department I'm currently in for probably 10 of those.
All right. So did you ever know someone named Shanti Cooper or Shanti Cooper-Tronnes?
Yes.
How did you know her?
So when I was working, Shanti used to come in as our consultant. The computer system that we use is called Made to Manage, and Shanti was a Made to Manage guru, basically. And so she would come in and help and do our finances and our books and our month-end closings and that kind of thing. And so I met her that way through Tritech.
Can you tell me just a little bit more about this Made to Manage program, what it was specifically used for?
So it's used in manufacturing settings, and basically it keeps track of everything like all of the parts, the bill of material, as the product that you're building travels through the different processes that it has to go through. And on the back side of that, which is important to the accountants and the financials, is the time that labor's charged, the cost of the materials. So at the end of the day, it's kind of like a giant job costing thing.
And would you say Shanti was a subject matter expert on that program?
100%.
Do you recall when it was that you first met Shanti?
I don't remember the exact day that I met her. I know it was at Tritech. She had come in to do some stuff for us then, and it was before I was actually working in our accounting and finance department. So I didn't have a lot of interface with her, but, you know, we would speak and be friendly. And then after I moved into the accounting finance department, I worked very closely with her.
Would you say your relationship with Shanti was business, personal, or both?
It was both.
So first I want to talk to you about the business relationship you had
Sure.
with Shanti. Did you have an ongoing business relationship with her back in April of 2018?
I did, because Shanti used to come do stuff for us at TriTech very often, and she used to tell me all the time what a great job I was doing and how busy she was, and she could use some extra help. So then I approached her and said, I would like some supplemental income. Would this be a thing? And she said, of course, I would be definitely interested in that, but I want you to go to the management at TriTech first and approach them and tell them that you need supplemental income or you're going to do some outside work, and just make sure, see how that goes. So I did, and they said, yeah, that's fine. We have no problem with that. So then I ended up working as a consultant directly for Shanti for process improvements.
And so about how often or how many hours a week, roughly, would you work with Shanti?
So mostly what I did for Shanti was month-end related. So we were very, very busy from the last probably 2 days at the end of the month through the first week of the new month. And then it was just sporadic little, if somebody had a problem, if somebody had a question, if somebody needed something unrelated to month end. So it was like dribs and drabs, I guess I'm trying to say. We had busy times where we talked daily, and then we would go a week or a week and a half with very minimal.
So you would be more likely to work with her towards the end of a month?
Correct.
Fair to say? Okay.
Correct.
When you would communicate for work, how is it that you would communicate it? Would it be by phone call, by text, by video conference, in person?
All of the above. Phone call, text, we used GoToMeeting for our video kind of things. And sometimes, we would hop on a GoToMeeting and she would literally take me through the screens on hers and show me things she wanted to see. Other times she would take control of Other times she would take control of my screen and show me things. And so, but lots and lots of texts, phone calls.
Was she, would you say, a bit of a mentor or trainer to you in some ways?
100%.
If you were to call her or text her related to a business matter, how long did it typically take her to respond?
Instantaneously, if at all possible. If she couldn't get to you right away, she at least would respond with, I'm out, I'll get right back to you, or I don't know, I'm going to find out and get right back to you. She never, ever, ever and she was big with me when I started having face-to-face, well, not face-to-face, but person-to-person contact with the process improvement clients. You answer. You don't let things go.
So that's something that she actually sort of mentored or trained you on.
100%.
Being responsive to clients. Is that fair to say?
Yep.
Would it be unusual for her, and obviously I think based on what you just said, I know the answer to this, but would it be unusual for her to not respond within a couple of hours of you texting her about something work-related?
Super unusual.
As far as the personal relationship with Shanti, what sorts of things would the two of you do socially?
So we went shopping. We went to lunch a couple of times. We went to a concert together. We went to dinner.
About how often would you see her in person, either for business or personal matters?
So towards the end, Shanti, because she was training me and I was getting better at what I was doing, she was only having to come on site to TriTech once every quarter. So I at least saw her once a quarter in person. Go to meetings, I saw her probably at least once a month. And the personal in face-to-face were just kind of scattered. It wasn't, I can't give a real...
Did you ever, in your in-person interactions with her, have occasion to see her engagement or wedding ring?
I did.
Do you remember what it looked like?
I do.
Were you friends with Shanti on Facebook? Have you had a chance to see her Facebook?
I was.
Did she ever post about that engagement?
She did.
And have you looked at that post?
I saw it when she made it. And the first time that I saw her after she had gotten it, when she came to TriTech for something, of course, we oohed and awed over it, and, And
after she was engaged and you first saw it, was there ever a time that you remember seeing her after that she wasn't wearing her engagement ring?
I don't remember not seeing it, but that's not necessarily something I'm laser focused on looking at somebody anyway. So, I mean, the first time she came after she got it, it's a big deal because you know it's brand new and she just got it. But after that, you kind of don't really pay attention.
Is there any time in your mind that it sticks out that you notice she's not wearing a wedding or
No.
wedding or engagement ring?
No.
All right. Let the record reflect, I'm showing opposing counsel what's been marked for identification as state CE. Wish to approach the witness?
May?
Let the record reflect, I'm showing the witness what's been marked for identification as state CE. Have you take a look at this and let me know if you recognize it.
Yes, that's the ring.
Is
And that's
that-
the Facebook post.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of Shanti's engagement ring and the Facebook post she made regarding it?
Yes.
At this time, the state offers into evidence what's previously marked for identification as states CE.
Any objection? No. Number 61.
Permission to publish?
May?
Can you see that on your screen?
I can.
Is this the Facebook post that you saw related to Shanti's engagement ring?
Yes, it is.
And is this the ring that you saw her wearing in person and you sort of showing off when she was first engaged?
Yes, it is.
And in this upper right on the photo, let me get. In this upper right, if you could just sort of look over your shoulder, I'm sorry, is this a photo of Shanti and David Cooper-Tronnes?
Yes, it is.
So speaking of David Cooper-Tronnes, that we just saw in that photograph, had you ever met him?
I had.
Okay. Do you recall how many times or under what circumstances?
I know that he came to TriTech on at least one occasion that I met him. I met him at their house a couple of times. I met him at World of Beer when we were out having dinner, and we went to the concert together.
So I want to talk a little bit about the house. Did you ever have an occasion to go to Shanti's house?
I did.
And were you aware of the construction or
I
renovation
was.
issues?
Yes.
What do you recall about that?
I remember that it was just an ongoing process. She would say, oh, well, they made progress on this, but we found this, and this is a delay, and oh, we had to change this plans for this, and, they put some kind of special air conditioning unit in that then they had to change a bunch of stuff, and so I know it was just an ongoing, continuous kind of a thing.
So at what point was it that you found out that Shanti was murdered?
So Shanti was...
That Shanti had died.
So Shanti was supposed to come to TriTech on Thursday. I guess it would be, the 26th, for our quarter-end review.
And sorry, let me stop you there. You said the 26th. Do you mean April 26th of 2018?
I believe so, yes. Yes. And so she was supposed to come for our quarter-end review, and our computer systems went down. So my supervisor said, go ahead and call Shanti and tell her don't bother to head this way, because without the computers, we have nothing to look at. And I called the process improvement phone line, and Dave answered and told me that Shanti had passed.
Okay. When you were told that, do you recall any specifics of what he said about that she had passed?
He said he came home and he found her and he couldn't resuscitate her, and that he called 911 and there was nothing they could do.
Okay. What did you do after? And this is a phone conversation?
Yes.
What did you do after that phone conversation?
So I was very hysterically crying because, Shanti was my mentor. She was also my friend and my business associate. And I went into my boss's office to tell her that what I had just learned from Dave. And Dave was crying when I talked to him on the phone and all upset. And so Tammy said, I must have still been on the phone because Tammy said, call him back and tell him when work is over, we'll come by there to see if there's anything he needs from us or anything we can do to help him. And so that's what I did. And
So at some point, I guess after the conversation, did you actually go to the Tronnes house?
yes, we did.
And is this still on April 26th? Of
Yes, it is.
2018? Okay. And so you get to the house. Do you make contact with David Tronnes?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me about what happens then?
So we got there and we came up to the gate and we called out to him and he showed up. I don't know from where, but he showed up and he let us in and we talked in the garage, and he was crying and distraught and very upset and said that, so here's the thing with Shanti, with the being prompt with the clients, then David had told me that he had been questioned all night at the police department. So I knew that Shanti probably had 3,000 emails that had queued up at that point in time. And I asked David, did I have permission to notify the clients? And he said yes, but I felt it was disrespectful to notify the clients before notifying Shanti's family. So then I said, have you notified Shanti's family and friends? And he said no. So Tammy and I offered to help him do that.
And did you ultimately assist in notifying some individuals about?
I personally did not. Tammy made some phone calls because I was pretty distraught myself. So.
And when you went to the house and you talked to Dave, did you have any further discussion about how Shanti died?
He told us that she had head trauma and facial bruising.
Did he tell you that the police had told him that she had been murdered?
He did not ever say murdered, no.
Did he tell you that she had been strangled?
Never.
Would you recognize David Tronnes if you were to see him?
Yes,
Is he in the courtroom?
he is.
Okay, if you could just point him out and
He's over here.
describe something he's wearing for the record.
He's wearing a striped tie and glasses.
Let the record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant.
Thank you.
I don't have anything further. Thank you.
Thank you.
Defense, cross whenever you're ready.
Good morning, Ms. Cochard.
Good morning.
So you had an opportunity to meet and socialize with David Tronnes, correct?
Correct.
How would you describe him?
He was always very nice and polite and kind.
You had an opportunity during the times that you spent over at the house and interacting socially to see how he interacted with his wife, Shanti?
Yes.
You mentioned that some of the activities that you participated with with Shanti socially included going shopping, going to dinner. That dinner, was that enjoyed with Mr. Tronnes?
Yes, it was.
And tell us about that dinner. Who went?
Shanti and Dave were already there with some of their other friends. I can't remember who all was there, but I know that Dan and Cindy Dow were there because that's when I met Dan and Cindy. And my husband and myself and my daughter met them. It was at World of Beer, and we met up there with them and just had some food and some drinks and just socialized.
When was that?
I don't remember exactly. I know it was before January of 2018. It was in 2017. That's the best I can do.
All right. You also mentioned a concert. Did David go with you and Shanti to that concert?
Yes, he did.
Who else went?
It was just David and Shanti and myself and my husband.
Okay. Where was the concert?
It was at House of Blues.
At where?
Downtown Disney.
Okay, so in this area.
Yes,
Did you all ride together?
we did. My husband and I went by Shanti and Dave's house and picked them up.
Okay. How much time did you spend together with them on that occasion?
A few hours.
Had you also socialized at their house?
My husband and I never socialized at their house together. I had been to David and Shanti's house, not really on social occasions, but more business. But my husband, that's the first time he'd ever been there.
During those business interactions at the Tronnes house, did you have an opportunity to observe Shanti and her husband David together?
Yes.
How would you describe what you observed of their relationship?
A normal relationship.
Okay. Did David seem that he was loving to Shanti?
Yes.
Vice versa, she was loving to him?
Yes.
The prosecutor had asked you some questions about the engagement ring. You saw the social media post. Everyone saw that post, correct? It was something she was proud of. Anybody that followed her, yes?
I would think so, yeah. I mean, I don't know how much attention everybody pays, but
And you indicated that you can't really remember a time that she didn't have the ring, but that wasn't something that you were hyper-focused on.
absolutely.
Did you ever learn of a time that, she had to have the ring repaired?
No.
When you would interact with her at the house, what time were these meetings that you would have at her house?
I can't say. I don't have any recollection of specific times.
Okay. Were they during normal business
It would be during
hours?
normal business hours for sure.
Did you have any personal knowledge about her nighttime, bedtime routine?
No.
Did you have any knowledge about her early morning, waking up, getting
Yes.
ready for work?
Yes.
routine? Okay.
I could text her at 5 o'clock in the morning and she would answer me.
But you don't know whether she would take her ring off at night or put
Oh, no, I don't know that.
like that? Okay. During the time that you knew Shanti and David, did you ever become aware of any trouble that they were having?
No.
Were you aware of the opportunity for them to do the zombie house flippers?
I was.
How did you find out about that?
Shanti told us about it on one of our times when she was at TriTech.
And how did she seem when she told you about it?
She seemed excited about it, and we, of course, said, the typical, oh, that's so cool, let me know when and if it happens, because we want to make sure we don't miss it.
During the times that you were over at the house, did you have an opportunity to see Dave and interact with him there at the house?
Yes, I mean, minimally, because we were there to discuss business with Shanti, but yeah.
What kinds of things would he be doing when you were over?
Taking care of the dogs, cleaning the pool. I believe on one of our meetings that we were over there, he made everybody like water and iced tea and, something to drink.
Okay. Where did you enjoy the water and iced tea?
On the back porch, they had table and chair out there next to the pool area.
So there was a living area outdoors?
I wouldn't call it a living area, but it was, table and chairs, like a patio set.
Okay. A place where people could hang out and talk.
Correct.
You indicated on your direct examination with Mr. Smith that it would be super, I think these were your words, super unusual for Shanti not to respond to a text message or a phone call or an email.
Yes.
Did you become aware that Shanti had an illness a few months prior to her death?
I knew that she had had an emergency appendectomy.
After she had the emergency appendectomy, did you notice any difference in her responsiveness?
No.
I think you indicated that you found out from David on the phone that Shanti had passed.
Correct.
How would you describe his demeanor when you talked to him on the phone?
He was distraught. He was crying and he was very distraught.
Approximately what time was that on Thursday that you had that phone call with him?
I don't know for sure. I would like to say it was probably in the neighborhood of 8 o'clock.
In the morning?
Yes.
And then you said you told your supervisor, Tammy?
Correct.
And the two of you made a plan to go over later that day.
Correct.
Do you remember what time it was when you went over?
We actually did not wait until after work because I was distraught. So the president of our company said, you guys just go ahead. Go take care of whatever you need to do. And so I would guesstimate, again, I don't know. I was in grief. I was in shock. It probably was somewhere around 10 or 10:30 when we got there.
Later in the morning?
Yes.
And how did David appear to you?
He was still crying and distraught and disheveled and just out of sorts.
Okay. when he had the conversation with you and he was describing what had happened to her, was he upset?
He was upset.
One moment, please. Oh, yeah, when, the concert that you guys went on, when was that in time?
I believe it was December of 2017.
Okay,
Not 100% though.
all right. And did David and Shanti seem happy?
They did.
Did you talk to Shanti pretty much every day?
Not every day, but very often.
Okay. Had you talked to her on the Monday before her death?
I don't think so because my birthday was on Sunday the 22nd and she texted me happy birthday and I want to say that's the last communication that I had with her.
Did you ever become aware of any dental issues she was having?
I was not aware of dental issues.
All right. How did you prepare for your testimony today?
I just thought about what happened. I read through my prior transcript,
Okay. Have you watched any of
prayed.
Have you watched any of the testimony in this trial?
I have watched a little bit of it yesterday morning. I can't watch a lot of it because it's too painful and I just don't. There are things I don't need to know.
I have no further questions.
Any redirect?
Briefly, Your Honor. So you went to a concert with Dave and Shanti, and you think around December 2017. It seems like you also might have gone to dinner or World of Beer with them, somewhere around then. Did you ever have any interactions with the two of them together since December of 2017?
I don't think so, but I can't be 100% certain that there wasn't some kind of a brief business meeting. But I don't. There's none that I recall.
Thank you.
May this witness be excused from subpoena?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objection, defense? Thank you. You may step down. You are excused.
Thank you.
Attorneys, will you approach? And state you may call your next witness.
Jacqueline Spence?
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
May it please the court?
You may proceed.
All right, you were very soft-spoken when you answered Mr. Clerk. There is a microphone in front of you, so if you need to lean into it for amplification, please do. But can you tell us your first and last name and spell them both?
Jacqueline Spence, Jacqueline Spence.
And do you live in the Delaney Park area of Orlando?
Yes.
How long have you lived in that area?
About 10 years now.
And in living in this area of town, did you get to know a Shanti Cooper or Shanti Cooper-Tronnes or David Tronnes or both?
Yes.
And during the course of knowing them, did you ever see either of them or both of them separately or together walking in the neighborhood?
Yes.
All right, so let's break that down since it was a big compound question. Did you ever see Shanti Cooper-Tronnes walking around in the neighborhood alone?
Not typically.
All right. Did you ever see David Tronnes walking around in the neighborhood alone?
Yes.
Do you see David Tronnes in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Would you point out where he is and what he's wearing?
Over there, glasses, black jacket, striped tie, blue shirt.
At the end of a table?
Yes.
Let the record reflect she's identified the defendant. And when you saw the defendant walking alone, approximately what time of day or what times of day, plural, would it be?
Variable. Sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon. It was just varied.
And when he walked alone, did he have any canine companions?
Typically, yes.
All right. And when you say typically, can you assign a percentage? Was it 100%, something less than that?
Almost always.
All right. So in all the times that you saw him walking, how many times would you say you saw him walking without a dog or dogs?
Probably 2 or 3.
All right. And do you have any idea what times of day those times might have been?
Always daytime hours, so daylight.
Did you ever see the two of them walking together?
Not usually. I don't believe ever.
Without going into your specific address, how far away, either in terms of distance or house plots, did you live from them when they lived at 218 East Copeland?
They are my backdoor neighbors.
All right, so is it fair to say the back of your property abutted the back of their property?
Yes.
And getting in and out of Delaney Park to get to the main thoroughfare, which I believe is Orange Avenue, are there limited ways to do that?
Yes. Yes.
So I'm just saying it wouldn't be unusual if you were in your car to see people walking because there's only so many ways to get to Orange Avenue from where you live.
Correct.
All right. Now, on April 24th of 2018, do you recall that day?
Yes.
And did you make a trip to go anywhere in the morning, almost up into the noon hour?
Yes.
Where did you go?
I took my kids to school. I went to the gym. I went to Publix, and then I came home.
Approximately what time did you get home?
It was around 11:50.
And what was your path of travel once you were getting into the neighborhood area of Delaney Park?
I came from Publix on Delaney. I took a left onto Miller, and then turned a right onto my street, or onto Lerna.
All right. And so, for those of us that aren't super familiar, Delaney, does that run north and south?
Yes.
And Miller, how does that run?
East and west.
All right. And so, now with that context, run us through your path of travel again.
I was headed north on Delaney, and I went west onto Miller, headed towards Orange Avenue.
Did your travels bring you all the way to Orange Avenue at that point, or did you just go to your home?
I went home.
While you were traveling, did you see either Shanti Cooper-Tronnes or David Tronnes, the defendant, walking?
Yes, I saw David.
And when he was walking, did he have any canine companion or companions with him?
Not on this day.
And do you recall anything about what he was wearing?
Yes. He was wearing light-colored shorts and a light-colored t-shirt.
And light is a very relative term to all of us. Is it light like a white blouse, or did it have any color to it?
I believe the shorts were khaki, and I think the shirt was a white color.
All right. And this shirt, sleeves, no sleeves, short sleeves, long sleeves?
Short sleeves.
Okay. So like a T-shirt?
Yes.
Any print on it, or was it just a plain shirt?
I can't recall.
Do you recall which direction he was traveling?
He was walking west on Miller.
All right. And so west, from this point of view, coming from Delaney, is that taking him towards Orange Avenue?
Yes.
And is it towards his property and your property?
In a roundabout way, yes, if you were walking around the block.
Okay. And Miller, the east-west street, is this north or south of where they lived on Copeland and where you lived on your street?
It is south.
Okay. And then are there side streets that could take one up to Copeland from there?
Yes.
Okay. Did you stop and interact with him on that day?
No.
Just saw him walking?
Correct.
All right. No other questions?
Ross?
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Testified that you've seen David walking alone previously,
Yes.
and the times of day that he walked varied.
Yes,
You've seen him walk morning and evening,
yes,
as well as afternoon sometimes?
yes, usually during daylight hours.
And while he normally has dogs, you've seen him without dogs?
Yes, on 1 or 2 occasions.
Fair to say that you have other things going on in your life than watching the comings and going of David and Shanti Cooper-Tronnes?
Yes,
So there may have been times that he went walking that you didn't observe him?
I'm sure.
When you saw David walking, what was he wearing?
Shorts and a t-shirt.
All right, thank you. Good.
No redirect. This witness may be excused.
Any objection, defense?
No.
Thank you. You may step down. You are excused. And we are going to go ahead and take a morning recess, about a little less than 10 minutes probably, if you want to follow the deputy out. We'll be in recess until 11:05. You don't need to stand. I'm just doing it for comfort. In recess till 11:05.
This wasn't a feature. This wasn't a feature. I'm sorry. I think you just referred to it. I mean, if you
It is weird. I don't usually work with people. So supposedly 3? All goes as planned, and if this is actually the battle plans, the Death Star plans, I don't know.
I did notice your socks. I don't know if you see my Jeep up there, but I've got the whole rebellion.
I'm Empire.
So mine has logo and it says choose wisely. I didn't notice those, but I didn't.
Did you watch Ahsoka?
No, I don't.
You gotta get with it.
I don't watch it. I'm not very responsible.
I don't either. I could literally delete all of my channels except for sports and Disney Plus. Well, I recommend it.
I will try.
And if you like the deep, thoughtful, like political thriller, Andor was very, very good.
I'll have to.
Yeah. Fun spaghetti western. Obi-Wan. I think you're talking about Andor? Cassian Andor? It's a slow start if you didn't like watch Rogue One and aren't deeply into it.
Is that a movie, Rogue One?
Yeah. My mom tossed all those things when I was still in the home because she passed away when I was in high school. She got rid of them, and I'm like, what? They'd be worth so much now. Not that I'd ever give them away. I have a stepson, but I mean, he's 28 and actually puts real rockets into orbit. He works for NASA. He's contemplating working for Elon Musk.
Pay a lot better.
Yeah, but like, do you want to sleep in your cot 16 hours a day, 7 days a week?
For a year or two, and then like get off to the sunset.
She's got great hours. She's a PA and she works Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, 12-hour shifts. Treats it as full time.
Samantha loves the DOT gig. Couldn't sit in office.
Yeah. The reality is for what we do. I was like in office 42 weeks a year to do.
All Orlando or nothing.
Okay.
I don't miss those days. Being thrown up on and pooped on. Although my 16-year-old dog who's got no boiler.
10 years, 10 weeks.
Like, Samantha has described him before, and like I just imagine him as like completely decrepit. I mean, he's still.
He's got energy. He gets around. Just
Me?
Actually, the seizures.
I've been to Jacksonville since a
Oh, that's good.
But he just pees wherever he wants to.
That's what
Thank
she's.
God we don't have rugs or carpet rather, but the rugs are taking the beating.
In your life in your own hands.
Need gas.
She's
You gotta stop where you gotta stop.
Do some yoga too.
Yep, I teach at a couple of studios. Well, the inversion table is magic.
I'm 285 pounds. So I'm a big guy. So that's yeah.
How tall are you?
6'3".
Yeah. You look taller. Like you have
I used to have to pull the belt tight to find where the waist was.
So how did yoga come up?
I'm
right.
going to get into yoga. I'm like, I like my work out in slow motion.
Oh, you come to my class, you'll get a cardio workout too.
That's over my pay grade.
Well, we don't have heat in the studio in DeLand, so I have to work up the body temp somehow.
Did you grow up here?
Down in Palm Beach.
All right.
Matthew. State ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Fence ready? We can bring them out. These are really nice guys. It's weird to me. And now he's made all this stuff. I'm in this division next year, and I'm done that. So it's hard. And I really try to. As I see this now, for very lot of it, it is absolutely my favorite rotation. There's a whole thing there that he's on, but I just feel like it's such a good movie. Just past that one. State, you may call your next witness.
At this time, the state calls Dana Duran.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you speak up just a little bit?
Yeah, good morning.
And can you just introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name for the record?
My name is Dana. My last name's Duran, Duran.
And what city do you live?
Eustis, Florida.
Are you currently employed?
Yes.
Where do you work?
I work for a toxicology lab. I'm a territory account manager. It's with GH Labs.
Did you know a person named Shanti Cooper or Shanti Cooper-Tronnes?
Yes.
How did you know her?
She was my college roommate and my best friend.
So how long had you known her up to the point of her death?
Gosh, we met in 2000. 2000.
And did the two of you remain friends after college?
Yes. Yeah.
During your friendship with Shanti, did you ever meet her husband, David Tronnes?
Yes.
Roughly how many times did you meet him?
Oh, several. I mean, I was her best friend, so we hung out lots. Yeah.
Did you ever observe any tension in the relationship between David and Shanti?
Yes. It was.
Can you just describe their relationship that you observed?
Yeah, it was very rocky. It had a lot of good points, especially early on. But that's what a lot of relationships are like. And but it ended up being really, really rocky as time went on. Often really good or really bad. But I did see a lot, and I felt a lot of the times that I kind of was a mediator when I would go hang out with them, kind of dissolve some of the issues that they had, you know, as I was their friends.
Did you yourself ever witness any arguments or bickering problems with them while you were present?
Yes.
Do you recall the source of any of those issues?
It would just be, little, a quick comments back and forth, just a little snap here and there, kind of comments. But offhand, it could have been on a number of little things, like, you didn't grab that for me, you didn't get this for me, little things. And it was both ways.
Were you ever made aware of any tensions related to the house that they lived in at 218 East Copeland?
Yeah, I mean, it was being that it was under the renovation and going through all that they were going through and trying to decide on several different contractors and how to go about it. There was a lot of tension. That was a lot of fights and, hey, I want my staircase this way. I want this way. But, it's common.
Were you ever there personally to witness those fights or arguments?
It's funny because a lot of the times if they did, they tried to work with each other too. So if they bickered, they tried to amend things later by, okay, well, we'll talk about that later,
Were you ever at their residence while the construction was going on?
Yes, in many different ways, because when I was there when they got it and acquired it, so I saw it with the old walls, and then I saw it without the walls, and I saw the blueprints, and so we went through a lot of that phase.
When would you estimate the last time you saw the house?
I'd probably say maybe December 2017-ish, yeah.
And what was the state of the house at that time?
No walls. And the last time I remember when I had seen it, they were like working out of the makeshift kitchen because it had been pretty much, dismantled. And they were of course they were living in the mother-in-law in the back. But yeah, that's what I remember is the dismantled kitchen, and then they were working on certain parts that they were going to move.
Were you aware of their sleeping situation at the house?
Yes.
What was that?
That was them all living in the mother-in-law suite.
Okay.
And then utilizing the house as they needed, the kitchen.
So did you ever have any knowledge of David living in the garage area?
I had heard that a few times. I didn't encounter that when I would visit, but yeah.
Did you ever witness Shanti say any cutting or rude comments to Dave in your presence?
She could have a lip with her, a mouth on her, she spoke her mind if she felt, something was not right. She was a strong, beautiful woman that stood up for herself too, if she needed to. Yeah.
Did you ever notice her engagement ring?
Yes.
Did you ever notice her not wearing her ring when you were around her? After the engagement, obviously?
Yeah, no, she loved that ring.
How was it that you found out about Shanti's death?
I found out on a Saturday, and I know she was killed on Tuesday. And I found out through my other best friend who called me.
Did Dave ever reach out to you and tell you about her death?
No, never. And I was her best friend and his friend.
And the person we've been talking about is Dave Cooper-Tronnes. Would you recognize him if you were to see him?
Yeah.
Is he in the courtroom?
Yes, he is.
If you could just point him out and describe something he's wearing for the record.
He's in that black suit and the tie.
Let the record reflect the witness identify the defendant.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further questions.
Ross?
Good morning.
Now, I think you described yourself as Shanti's best friend.
Mm-hmm.
She was married before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Did you go to her wedding?
I wasn't able to attend. I was invited. I wasn't able to attend. I had started a new job.
During your relationship, is it fair to say that you and Shanti would have periods where you weren't as close or didn't communicate as much?
There were times because she was busy and working. So as a best friend, we were very close, but she was very independent. So she was kind of like, I live my life. I'm going to go hang out with her man. So she did a lot of that, and we would hang out here and there. So yeah, but it also was that she did want to see me a lot. Towards many times in those cases, what happened is that I felt like a mediator. So a lot of the energy was really tough, and it started to get even tougher. So I didn't hang out as much when it was offered.
You were spending the most time with Dave and Shanti together earlier in time in their relationship, and not as much later on, correct?
No, not at all. Like, it wasn't as much early on as it was towards the end.
Okay. How much time
opposite.
did you actually spend with Shanti once they moved into the loft?
Once they moved into that house or
Into
the
the
loft? A lot. We would go hang out on the weekends. We'd go swim in the pool. My kids are her kids' age, so we hung out quite a bit.
And when you would hang out with Shanti, would Dave also be there?
Yes.
All right. I don't have any other. Oh, let me ask you this. I'm sorry. Did you come to learn about the potential for them to participate in the Zombie House Flippers program?
Yes. She had called me and told me towards the end that that's the decision that they had come together and made, that they were about to start filming. So she had told me that story.
Okay. Was she excited about that?
Yeah.
I think you had mentioned that you were Shanti's college roommate, yes?
Yes.
Did you share the same room together?
No, we had a 2-bedroom townhome.
All right. Have you ever slept in the same room with her?
Yeah.
Were you aware of her snoring issue?
Yes.
Okay, and describe that.
It wasn't something that I ever encountered from back in the day, but I remember her saying that she has an issue. She has to wear a CPAP.
She what?
She had to wear a CPAP.
CPAP. Okay. Do you know how compliant she was with you using that CPAP?
Not really. And I know that it bothered him. I remember her telling me, I feel really bad because it bothers him.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you prepare for your testimony today?
I had some questions that I knew I would get questioned, and that's it.
Okay. Did you review any prior statements that you gave?
No.
Okay. Have you watched any testimony or evidence that's been presented in this trial?
No, I haven't.
State, any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
May this witness be excused from subpoena?
Yes.
Any objection, defense?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. You may step down. You are excused.
Thank you.
State, next witness.
Your Honor, at this time, the state calls Keith Horry. Horry.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you introduce yourself to the jury and just spell your last name for the record?
My name is Keith Ori. The last name is O-R-I.
And what do you do for work?
I am a real estate investor, and I appear on the A&E television series Zombie House Flipping.
How long have you been involved with that show?
We filmed the pilot in November 2014, so for quite some time.
Did your work at some point bring you in contact with a person named David Tronnes?
That's correct.
How was it that you first came into contact with David Tronnes?
He reached out to me. I wouldn't remember the time period, but he had evidently begun work on his house, and he was referred by a neighbor. I had just won my second Historic Preservation Award from the city, and he had a historic house and asked if I could come by and take a look at it. It was a cold call out of the blue.
And so that first time, I guess when you met him about he wanted you to look at the house, did you actually go look at the house?
I think I did, and we talked, and he said he'd be in touch if he, wanted to talk more about it or what have you, but I didn't hear from him again, at least not for quite some time.
And at first, did you think that house would be a good candidate for the show Zombie House Flipping that you worked on?
Not necessarily originally, because in my recollection, the length of time it would have taken to renovate from the position it was in would have probably been too long for the arc of one of our shows.
And when you first went to the house, can you describe the state that it was in?
To be perfectly honest, I don't remember the exact state it was in the first time I looked at it. The second time I remember really quite clearly, though.
Would it be fair to say that it had sort of digressed from the first time you saw it to the second time? Was it more sort of demolished or destroyed?
From the first time to the second time, yes, considerably.
Okay. So if you could just tell the jury about how it is that you ended up taking a look at the house the second time.
So I received a call from Mr. Cooper-Tronnes about 6 months after the first time, and I went by the house. I wasn't necessarily expecting very much, but when I walked inside, it was something I hadn't seen before. I don't think very many people get to see. We talk in terms with respect to renovations. We talk in terms of taking a house down to studs, meaning removing the drywall or plaster on the interior dividing walls to gain access and move walls around. In Mr. Cooper-Tronnes' house, the studs had been removed. There were no interior dividing walls at all. In my recollection, there was a partial floor between the first and second floor. There was a little bit of framing, I think, that you could maybe stand on, but you had to use a ladder to get to it, if I remember correctly. Basically, the house was a large, almost like a shoebox, a two-story shoebox, and the alarming part was that not just that the interior dividing walls and supports were removed, but the exterior walls, which are framed. It's a 1920-something house, I think. The exterior framing on the house was largely destroyed by wood-destroying organisms. So it was basically being held up by 2 layers of plaster that had been at some point subsequently applied to the framing on the outside of the house and had created sort of a concrete shell. And I had brought
Let me just stop you there.
Sure.
When you say wood destroying, do you mean things like termites and things like that?
Actually, more in this case, probably water more than termites. The wood that was used back at that point in time was treated with something that the EPA certainly wouldn't allow these days, but it made a lot of the houses from that period largely impervious to termites. The area that I noticed the most destruction in was below the windows. The older type windows with the lead weights on the side that would act as counterbalances, the wooden windows. They weren't perfect at preventing water intrusion in all cases, so below the window openings, and there are many of them, the wood was largely destroyed. The exterior framing was largely destroyed under the window openings.
So ultimately, after this second view of the house, were you hired by David Cooper-Tronnes to help renovate the house?
There were some more discussions. I had some structural engineer friends of mine come over. We walked in the house. They looked around and asked if we could talk outside because they didn't feel safe in the house.
So is it fair to say there was actually a concern that the house was not even safe enough to do work on initially?
That was expressed that the house was in a state where it could potentially collapse at any given moment. Now, as it turns out, the house is still standing, and the stucco on the outside of the house is apparently quite rigid. But the structural engineers I employed at the time had some serious concerns.
So, moving beyond their concern, ultimately, did you decide to go forward with a renovation of the house?
Yeah, it was a unique opportunity. Nobody gets to do that kind of work. It's unheard of, where you have a two-story shell and you rebuild a house structurally from the inside. So it was a fascinating sort of a challenge.
And so you were hired, were you paid by David Tronnes to work on the house?
I was.
And what was the payment agreement that you had?
It was monthly. I don't remember the precise amount. It wasn't a great deal of money, and it probably wasn't enough. But it was, it was what it was.
And so sort of this is a parallel thing happening. Is it fair to say that you were doing some work on the house in your sort of day job, and then also the house had some interest to you as part of your role with the zombie house flipping show?
Well, when I contracted with David, we were between seasons on zombie house flipping, and in that business, you don't necessarily know if you're going to have a subsequent season. You can either have your show renewed during the season or at some point after a prior season ends. And in this case, we had finished. It may have been season 2, I think, and we were may have been season 2, and we were waiting to see if we would get renewed. As it turned out, during the period of time I was working on Mr. Tronnes' house, the show did get renewed, and so the first thought is, we need houses.
And so you had the thought that this house would be something that could be featured on the show?
Yeah, absolutely. It was, as I said, a unique opportunity to showcase something that nobody ever gets to do or see.
And so did you discuss that with Mr. Tronnes, the possibility of being on the show?
I did.
Okay. And was he receptive to that?
He and Shanti both were.
And when was this first conversation that you sort of talked about that with him?
I don't know when the first conversation was. I do know that the house was green-lighted by the producers of the show, and I was told that at that time when it was green-lighted that we had to stop construction entirely on it because part of the format of the show at that time included demo day, doing demo at the beginning of an episode. And if we had gone any further on that house, there wouldn't be anything left to demo. There was some residual items that could still be removed that would fulfill that obligation to the show. So that would have been in early March of that year, and I had a conversation with Dave and Shanti where I explained if we wanted to do this, we would have to stop work on the house until filming began. And I think filming was to begin in maybe the second week of May that year. So it was probably, 2 months of downtime would have been required.
And did they agree to that wait to be on the show?
They did.
Okay.
They did.
And did that affect the sort of delay? Did that affect your payment as it related to the work that you had sort of started on the renovation of the house?
In a small way, I guess. It was I was paid X number per month, and we had I wouldn't even call it a dispute. It was just a question about whether I would be paid my monthly fee for the construction during the wait, and that was. And
you and Dave had some sort of a misunderstanding about that, but it was something that was worked out ultimately.
Yeah, sure. I had anticipated as we were continuing to do planning and engineering and what have you that I would be paid, continually. And Dave and Shanti, I presume it was both of them, wanted to pause payment until physical construction began again.
And when you would be interacting with the Tronnes related to your work on the house and also the show, who was your primary point of contact?
Oh, Dave was.
Would you say that you interacted with him about the house much more than Shanti?
Yeah, Shanti was working a great deal. He would communicate her desires. I would see her frequently, but it was more like Dave's full-time job, almost, I guess I would say.
Did you ever know during your time that you knew Dave him to have any other job?
I was aware that he had explained to me that he had worked for a chemical company up north somewhere, Minnesota or Wisconsin or something like that.
But, I mean, did you ever know in your time with him to work anywhere in Orlando?
No, we didn't know each other socially. I didn't go into those kind of details.
Okay. All right. So, at some point, the construction on the house stops based on waiting for the schedule of the TV show to begin. And did you at some point request a sit down with both David and Shanti before the production of the show began?
Yeah, that was necessary because the nightmare scenario is that you get into a house, that you start filming a house, that you commit production resources which go into the thousands of dollars per day, and then at some point into the episode, halfway, what have you, a client would decide to stop, or to not continue, or to disallow filming, when the production company that I work for, could have conceivably spent a couple $100,000 at that point, and had an episode on their schedule with the network. So that's a situation we all work very, very hard to avoid in advance. And so to ensure that we were all on the same page, I asked for a sit-down meeting.
And before we get to that meeting, I meant to ask you, what is the benefit to a homeowner in being on a show like Zombie House Flipping?
Sure. So there are financial benefits, but they're modest, maybe $20,000 to $30,000 of what we call trade outs, which could be free appliances or cabinets or services in kind that are provided by a company that wants to have their products showcased on one of our episodes. So that in this case, the Tronneses would have been the beneficiary of the hypothetical free appliances, free cabinets, what have you. And then there's obviously the to whatever degree the pride or the knowledge that they have that their house is on television, sort of thing.
In your experience, did the fact of having a house being on a show like that, did that tend to raise value of properties?
That's an excellent question. We're prohibited by the network for example, for advertising when we sell the houses that it is a TV house, that it's from Zombie House Flipping, so to speak. But because of the trade outs that we're able to use, sometimes the finishes on the house exceed, or most of the time the finishes on the house exceed what you would find in a conventional flip, so that the houses are finished to the nines, kind of thing. And because of that increase in goods, effort, finishes, what have you, the houses can carry a higher value because of that.
All right, so I want to go back to that meeting the sit-down meeting that you wanted to have with David and Shanti. Did you have any difficulty in getting that sit-down scheduled?
There was some difficulty. David expressed that, and this was mostly done by text, David expressed that he wanted to know if he could just handle the meeting himself, if they could do it while they were both in the car and call me on a sort of a group call, speakerphone, things like that. And I felt that we really needed to look each other in the eyes, at least I did, and make sure we were all on the same page. Because it had been some time. I think we stopped construction, like I said, in the beginning of March, and this would have been over a month later. We hadn't communicated a great deal, and I wanted them to fully understand what they were getting into, that they're going to have their privacy invaded. They were going to have this production crew surrounding them, most days, and that the house could potentially take a little bit longer because of filming, that that all the things you have to prepare somebody for in a situation like this, and make sure that they were fully committed. It was difficult to get them both together, but I explained ultimately that we couldn't go forward if I wasn't able to sit down with them both and feel assured that they were completely on board.
So ultimately, you're able to get this sit-down scheduled. Is this sometime in the middle of April of 2018?
Yes, it was. By my recollection, it was the week prior to Shanti's passing.
So tell the jury about that meeting. You get to the house to have the meeting. What happens?
I arrived at the house to meet Dave and Shanti. Dave was by the pool, which is where I usually found him. It was a nice setting, and we spoke. And Shanti was not there, and I said, we really need Shanti to come down, and or not. I didn't know where she was. We really needed to have Shanti here. That was the point of the meeting. And he hedged a little bit, and I said, it's really quite important. So he went to the garage, and I either yelled up the stairs or I don't know. He disappeared behind the door and came back with Shanti. If I remember, she had a headset on, like a telephone headset type thing on. She was working. That was whatever job she did, I guess required that. And she had come down, and she was, by my estimation, unhappy to be there. And it was in a sort of a tense state. We laid everything out. She said she was fully on board with the renovation, and then she left. And David explained that there were. It was obvious that she was unhappy with something. And
so, did you have an opportunity to sort of explain? Did you ever sit down during this meeting, or did she stand the whole time?
She stood the whole time. Again, by my recollection.
And did she appear to be paying much attention to what you were saying, or was she sort of dismissive of the conversation?
I wouldn't say dismissive. She was paying attention because we were talking about material things, but she was only there as long as she absolutely had to be, and then left.
So after that, did you ever have any further interaction with Shanti?
No.
Did you ever have any further interaction with David Cooper-Tronnes?
Yes. After Shanti passed, I had received a text message from Dave, I think the next day, and I expressed, that I don't know what's going on, and I don't want anything to do with it, and what have you.
So, Shanti's demeanor, you had met her before that meeting the week before her death, right?
I'm sorry?
You had met Shanti before that sit-down that you had scheduled in April.
Yeah, I had worked with Shanti and Dave closely on the house.
Was her demeanor different on that last time that you interacted with her than it had been previously?
Yes.
In what way, if you could explain to the jury?
She was tense, even intense. Appeared to be, mildly upset, annoyed, frustrated at something. I had no idea what the reason might have been, but that was, she didn't want to be there at that meeting.
I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, State. Cross?
Morning, sir.
Good morning.
Mr. Ori, you don't recall exactly when you were initially hired as a consultant?
I do not. I could look it up on text messages, I suppose, but
Was in the year or so prior to deciding to take the project on for the TV show?
yeah, it would have been within that year.
So 2017, just ballpark it.
Again, it would have been within the calendar year prior to the anticipated start date of the TV show.
You testified you were paid monthly,
Correct.
and initially this relationship was not related to the TV show.
Correct.
You are a real estate investor?
Correct.
Are you a general contractor?
I am not. I hired a GC.
Okay. So each project that you go, you hire an independent general contractor?
Yes, we hire contractors, just like we hire engineers or anybody else.
You're in the business of buying homes
I do, yes.
and renovating them
Correct.
and reselling them,
Correct.
and you've developed a model that it's a successful TV show on a cable network from this.
I did no developing.
Okay. You participate in this, though, and you've done it for a number of seasons?
Correct.
Are there any other crews, or is it just you and your crew that are focus of this show?
No, there are four. At that time, there were four cast members on the show: myself, Ashley Casserly, Justin Stamper, and Peter Duke.
All of you here locally, though, working together?
Correct.
Now, the TV show is called Zombie House Flippers, correct?
Zombie House Flipping.
Flipping, sorry. So with that, that means that y'all would independently own these properties that you were working up to resell. Is that was the original format of the show?
Correct.
And the Tronnes home, though, you were not purchasing it from them.
Correct.
They were not looking to sell.
Correct.
This was then going to be a new model for like a zombie house renovation where there was a third-party owner. This is the first of its kind of prototype.
I don't recall if we had done a third-party house prior to that. We've certainly done them subsequently, but I can't honestly recall if we did one prior to that.
To refresh your recollection, did you take a deposition via Zoom back on February 23rd, 2021? Give a sworn statement on...
Yeah, no, I've certainly given a deposition and sworn statements. I don't remember the exact date.
Okay. Do you recall myself being present or somebody from my office questioning you? Maybe my wife at the time?
No.
No? All right, fair enough. Have you had an opportunity to review that transcript prior to your testimony today?
No.
Would it refresh your recollection to review the item regarding the prototype with regards to the first time you used the third-party homeowner as the Tronnes' home?
You can give me anything you want.
Would it help refresh your recollection?
I don't know what it says, so I don't know what I mean, this very possibly that was the first third-party house. We've done almost 100 of them, so I don't want to swear to that.
Given the fact that it was a third-party home, though, it gave cause for concern for you because you wanted to do some additional vetting because of the exposure of the network or the production company.
Of course, any sensible person would.
So that would include making sure that they're on board and getting some form of contract or commitment?
Well, there's a verbal commitment, and there is a location release form that is from the production company.
What about making sure you're not footing the bill for the renovation, are you?
No, this was done on not even cost plus. It was just simply done on a fee basis.
So in the fee basis, in the sense of you were getting paid a consultant fee prior to the TV show taking over the project, correct?
Well, prior to and subsequently, yeah.
So you were getting paid monthly. So just by the Tronnes alone, you were getting paid monthly as a consultant prior to the TV show taking the project on.
Yes, that's why I was doing the work.
And at some point, when you decided to take the project on for the TV show, there had to be a delay of a couple of months for the production value.
Sure.
Because once you got the cameras in there at the beginning of May, an important part of the show is at least the beginning part showing some form of demolition, right?
Correct.
And there wasn't much demolition left to be done on this property.
Correct. I think I explained that to the prosecutor.
All right, so I just want to reiterate. So there was some level of frustration on part of the Tronneses about the delay because they've been through one delay after another.
I'm not aware of that. There were no delays on my end.
Not on your end. You had been aware that Mr. Tronnes seemed to be in over his head with regards to the renovation, correct?
The scale of the renovation was extraordinary, but I don't know what delays you're talking about.
Do you know how long they had been demolishing the home prior to you joining the project?
No idea.
Are you aware that David Tronnes was acting as his own contractor at the time?
I believe so, yes.
Did he seem qualified to you?
Dave's a very smart guy, and what we do is largely not rocket science. I mean, if you hire a contractor or structural engineers or what have you, the average person can do a good bit of what we do.
Well, let's just say this. You walked into this house, though, that he had taken on and was running the project, and you said you'd never seen anything like it before.
That's true, absolutely. Nobody has.
So at his hands, you walk into a home and you see something that blows your mind.
Yes.
And it's structurally unsound.
Yes.
And it took your help and assistance in bringing in the right team of people to get the project back on track.
Yes.
And wasn't it true that during the course of the delay that there was this, not such a dispute, but maybe a misunderstanding between yourself and the Tronneses because you expected to still be paid your consulting fee even though the project was at a standstill?
Well, it wasn't at a standstill from the planning or logistics or any of those phases. It was at a standstill solely from physically doing construction.
Meaning, we need to stop. We're going to start again in May when we bring the cameras in.
Meaning,
you want to do this.
Meaning that we can continue the planning and the structural engineering and the materials assessment and the material locating. There were some unique features. He wanted a plexiglass aperture in the floor, and we had to find the right material to accommodate that. So there was work that was going on during that period, but there just wasn't physical construction work.
Did you come to learn how the home came to be in that condition, that it was basically like peeling an onion, the layers away of the home?
It looked like the worst case of OCD I've ever seen.
You said there are some benefits to being on the show.
For whom are we speaking?
For the homeowners or for the?
Yeah, they're trade outs. They're modest, $20,000 to $30,000, but it's certainly not nothing.
And some press, you say, so that maybe on the back end there might be some increase in the value if they chose to sell in the future.
For people that are into that, it's cool. If they're not into it, it has no value.
Now, you do renovate a lot of homes in the Central Florida area, correct?
Yeah.
Including several homes in Delaney Park.
Most of what I do is in Delaney Park.
You renovate historic homes.
I have.
You've won awards for renovating historic homes.
I have.
You have a well-established team of contractors and subs that you've worked with over the years here locally, haven't you?
That's correct.
Who work with you on these shows and all of the projects that you bring them?
That's correct.
Good people to go the extra mile for you?
Good, hardworking, reliable people.
This is a selling point, though, in coming in and saying, like, listen, I've got the guys, I've got the teams, I can bring in the people, you could stop making the calls. Maybe while you're not the general contractor, you've got the connections to get it over the finish line better and quicker.
There was no sales job. I took this job because it was really, really interesting. I don't recall exactly what I was paid, but it wasn't much.
Mr. Warrior, when I say sales job, I'm not talking about you hustled them. I'm saying that this is something to be proud of, that this is an asset. You are an asset because you've got this well-established network of people that you're bringing in to tackle this task, this monumental task.
I don't have an ego about this. I work with good people, and I'm fortunate that they're loyal to me.
Given the state of the house and the plans that you had, how much was it going to take to finish the project?
In terms of what?
The Tronnes home, to get it finished.
No, what unit of measurement are you using? Are you talking time, money?
Money.
I have no idea.
Well, you know the price per square foot on new construction in 2018, don't you?
You misunderstand. Nobody's ever done this kind of work. What that house required wasn't something you can ballpark or compare or estimate or, size up compared to something else. There's no analog for it.
You had structural plans and all the engineering plans of what needed to be done?
After a certain period, yes.
So you're getting into a relationship with homeowners and you have no idea what the cost is to get complete. How are you supposed to know and be comfortable with the fact that they have the finances to complete the job?
It didn't matter to me.
Relevance.
Well, it didn't matter to me. I wasn't paying for it.
Didn't you just testify that you wanted this sit-down, that you needed this sit-down because you needed assurances from the homeowners?
Yes.
But that didn't include the ability to complete it financially?
What I was aware of is they paid $600,000 cash for the house. So in my mind, that meant that they were financially stable. If you're paying $600,000 cash for a house, it's probably not all your money. And to me, that said that they have enough to do it. I don't know what else would be required.
And you've communicated with Shanti before that meeting that you had with them in April, the week prior to her death.
I don't recall.
So
I know I spoke to David, and he arranged for Shanti to participate in the meeting. I didn't have very much direct communication with Shanti outside of meeting her at the home.
So how many times did you meet her at the home?
Could have been a dozen.
Okay, so you had met her prior to the meeting. You've interacted with her prior to the meeting in April, was my question.
No, I thought you were asking me if I communicated directly with Shanti during the pause.
No, from the time that you met Dave and Shanti, how many times did you communicate with Shanti?
Perhaps a dozen.
And on the day that you met her in the week before her death, you said she seemed annoyed or frustrated with something.
During that meeting, she was. Dave explained it away. It was obvious, and it sort of required explanation. It was obvious enough to require explanation, and Dave expressed that she was having trouble with her ex-husband.
Okay. Did he mention to you anything about health issues?
Now that you mention it, she had lost some amount of weight. I don't know what that was related to, though.
Okay. What about frustrated with work? Did he mention that to you?
I mean, he could have.
And this meeting was around the time, it was during the delay still, where you had this misunderstanding and dispute regarding your fee, correct?
That was, whatever misunderstanding occurred, it was quite minor, but the meeting was during the downtime, of course, because we had to have the meeting before we started filming.
So that would be a yes. It was right around the time that you had this misunderstanding over your fee.
Yeah, I testified that it was the week prior to Shanti's passing. That's not unclear.
And while you felt that she seemed bothered and short, you have no real idea why.
No, I only know what Dave told me.
You don't know if she was annoyed at you or frustrated with you?
That didn't even occur. I wouldn't know of a reason why she would be.
The delays in the fee dispute, the misunderstanding?
What delay again?
The 2-month delay, so you would restart shooting and pick up the demolition again.
That was their choice. That's not it. That wasn't required. That's something that they elected to do.
Were you aware that Dave owned the house and bought it outright prior to marrying Shanti?
I was aware that he bought the house and paid cash for it. I don't know when he married Shanti, and I don't know if they both bought it or he bought it or what have you.
So it seemed to you, though, that they were both very much in on the project when you were working with them.
That's true.
He was considerate of her feelings, and she interacted either directly with you or through David on the project?
Yeah.
Testified that this project essentially seemed like David's full-time job to you.
Metaphorically.
In the course of the time that you were on the property, did you know of a Steve and a crew of his workers that would come to the property to work on it early in the morning?
Steve?
Steve.
I have a framer named Steve. I don't know if that's who you're speaking about.
Steve have issues with parking access at the property, sometimes getting there early in the morning? Does that ring a bell?
No, not at all.
Would Steve arrive at 5:45 a.m. To work on the property?
Objection, lack of foundation.
Overruled.
Construction workers typically arrive early. That would be unreasonable. I don't think anybody has ever arrived at one of my job sites at 5:45 in the morning.
You don't recall any issues at all regarding crews showing up and issues with parking access at the property?
No, that does not ring a bell.
All right, one moment. And the meeting that you had with the Tronneses, the April meeting, the week prior to her death, when Shanti came down, was she wearing a headset?
That's my recollection.
So this was in the middle of her workday?
My recollection is she was wearing a headset. I don't think I could testify to anything beyond that.
Okay. Nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
May this witness be excused from subpoena?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objection, defense? Thank you. You may step down. You are excused. We're going to go ahead and take a lunch recess. Again, remember not to talk about this case, do any research whatsoever about the people, places, subject involved in this case. Don't talk about the case with anyone. Don't let anyone say anything to you or in your presence about the case. If anyone attempts to, tell them they are on the jury trying the case. Ask them to stop. If he or she persists, leave them at once. Report the matter to the court deputy. In addition, just like your reminder yesterday, as you're finding a wonderful place for lunch in the downtown area, just make sure they don't have televisions and continue to avoid any kind of television or newspapers. And with that, you can follow the deputy out. Oh, till 1:30. Sorry. It was in my mind, not apparently said. $1:30. How are witnesses looking for this afternoon?
Sorry, Your Honor. I think we should be good with witnesses to get us through the rest of the day.
Okay.
At some point, we'll have to decide if we're going to go into the last witness. Might be a little bit longer, or push it to Monday. So we'll see how we're going, I guess, and assess from there.
Perfect. I would think that'd be best, obviously.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying I've got something that happens.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I would think anyways it's best for everyone, including that. So yes, we will.
Would it be okay if we stopped a little bit before?
Absolutely.
5? Okay.
I prefer a little before rather than going too much after. I think that's a lot to ask the jury over the last few days, too.
Understood.
And as to the rule, Will the state look at that over the lunch and figure out what they're
Yes,
doing?
I reached out to my witness coordinator. He has emailed and texted all of the witnesses and let them know not to watch anything until they're released from their subpoena.
Thank you. And then we'll be in recess until 1:30. Who's their murder person? Yeah, there's a difference. I haven't seen Frank George.
Yeah, I can just
No
show
idea
you.
if still tracking. It has been. Okay. Yeah, I have not seen him. I probably haven't seen him in 8 years.
They would like to bring a carrot coffee maker in, but they need a notification, I guess something from you authorizing downstairs to work for it. And they,
Yes, absolutely.
She can go back. That's why she was over there. Samantha and that's Lori. You want me to put him back? Sure. Oh, Lori's done.
Can we write something for the downstairs security about that? The jurors would like a carrot machine, but the security isn't allowing them to bring it through, period.
We don't know the ins and outs.
We should be. Okay. Yeah, I think that.
No, like you absolutely, you gave him credit, so. He was just, it's the same attitude as in the text message, sorry.